Another person I found said, "Well, show me even one example of a program that favors women." Someone had raised, it was a discussion on some forum, and it's like this guy's like, "Well, there's a lot of programs that favor women exclusively," and this stupid idiot was like, "Yeah, you show me an example of one, just one. There's no such thing." And the guy responded by saying, "I can't believe you're that ignorant. I can't believe that you're that unaware of what's going on around you." And the person said, "See, you couldn't come up with one." And he said, "No, I just balked at your lack of awareness." And then he like dropped this massive search results of, city, state, and, federal programs that are various kinds of benefits that, are for women only, right? Small business loans only for women, small business incentives, tax incentives, all these kinds of incentivized programs, all gender exclusive, right? And they've kind of snuck in there because our, tacit chauvinistic attitude is that this is a bowling league and women need a handicap.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It's like the people in this radfem camp, they just will not concede anything. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And if you force them to where they have to concede, you're a man, you're a woman-hating MRA piece of shit asshole. Wants women to see women raped and dragged through the streets, by their ankles. I don't know what, but it's just so fucking. It's infuriating. I know it's a cliche when you're with skeptics, but they are at times every bit as dogmatic as religious people have argued with, because they just won't concede the smallest thing. That's what is irritating. They won't concede any point, no matter how self-evidently true.
Well, what's the thing that people do, though, and like you were just talking about, where they go, give me one example. Like, you hear that a lot, and what I love about it is that if you do, it won't matter. So why in the fuck are you asking me to give you one example? Because then you go on about how that's so, well, there's always an exception.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only a few steps away from that.
Their
right?
initial response.
Doing?
Their initial response was to say, "Look, even if you could find programs that favor women exclusively, it's only things that help them protect themselves against crimes committed against them by men, like women's shelters and battered women's this and that." It's just ridiculous. I mean, that narrative is just so blatantly about misandry and little else, right? Because it's ridiculous. Like you said a moment ago about how much energy is being exerted and wasted on certain things.
A fuck ton.
Yeah, I mean, if you're part of a group of people who's being disenfranchised, you're basically like in a siege, and there's two steps to a siege. You gotta break down the wall or the gate, and then you gotta send people through, right? And if you confuse those two phases, your siege is gonna fail, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, if there's a some event, and they say, okay, let's say they're doing like a soapbox racer, and I don't know why I came up with that as an example. It's just the first thing that came up, like some TV trope that came to mind, right? So they're doing a soapbox racer league, and they're like, okay, this is only for fucking Hindus, only Hindus can participate, and you and I.
That is the weirdest event, by the way, that I've ever fucking heard described. But yeah, go ahead.
This is only for Hindus. It's a Hindu, and we're like, look, we should be able to participate. Come on. And they're like, so we call the ACLU or whatever the fuck, and we win the right to participate in
Nobody does it.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
The soapbox, all Hindu soapbox racing league, right?
Yeah.
So we've won an important civil rights battle, okay? But that's only the first step. Now you got to build the fucking thing, and you got to learn how to, to do it, and you got to race, and you got to, put in some elbow grease and some effort, and you got to win the goddamn thing, or at least do, do your particular whatever it is you're standing for. Do it proud.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but I just really want to see this whole scenario you're describing animated somehow. I really just want to see this unfold in the form of a hilarious animation. Okay, but anyway, just I can see a bunch of protesters. I'm imagining like what their signs would say. Just a lot of funny shit going on. But all right, anyway, go ahead.
This soapbox racing league is an important part of our culture. I do not know why. I do not know why these foreigners are insisting on. Yeah.
We got to get the dark matter in on animating this shit. We need to do maybe some pro bono shit for us here, and maybe just animate this hilarious scenario we've concocted here.
Yeah. Oh, I
Don't
hope.
ask questions about context. Just do it.
Yeah, I hope we get to work with him again. He was cool. He was like one of
Yeah,
the few
yeah,
people we worked with that didn't like fuck us over in the end. Yeah, he's a
yeah.
cool guy. And anyway, so once there's the two phases. There's winning the right to participate, and then there's the rest of it is up to you. And if we go in there and we lose because it's the first time we've ever done a soapbox racer and they're all veterans, right?
Mhm.
It doesn't matter. It's too late to complain about the unfairness being inflicted upon us if we lose fair and square,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
this is the thing: is you have a lot of areas where women previously weren't allowed to participate in certain things. Then they win the right to do so, and yet their focus of a lot of feminist and radfem groups is still on the unfairness, and there's very little castigation being thrown at the women themselves, saying, okay, well, look, like I said, there's a lot of you in college, but you're choosing, you're choosing areas of study that have no vocational or really academic merit,
Right.
right? But no, it's just because society is unfair, and that's the other canard that you'll constantly hear. It's like, well, there's a 60-40 split. Oh, I saw this the other day on some blog. They said there only 23% of what is it, paleontologists are or something are women, and that's an injustice. And I'm like, how is it a fucking injustice?
It's an
And of course,
injustice.
the tacit implications. I mean, with a moderate feminist, it's a tacit implication. With a rad feminist, they just come right out and say it. Just like, it's men. It's men. They just won't let women, except for that 23%, they won't let women be paleontologists. You know what I mean? It's like, no, you do have the right. It's just that you're failing to distinguish yourself. At what point does your accountability come in?
Right. Right.
The
And it's
only
that's
way a
the-
woman can possibly win condemnation from feminists is by not being a feminist.
right.
It's
yeah.
like you're a gender traitor because you just
No, but that's the other part of it is like people don't internalize. Like, if let's say you're right that the fucking deck is stacked against you here, well, get the fucking work then.
yeah.
Like, I mean, isn't it all the more reason to like rather than fucking stand around and bitch about how unfair everything is, like get the fucking work and do something, like try. I'm like, I don't get that part of it either. But people really suck at that. They really
Yeah.
suck at analyzing a situation and acting the way you should, like the way that will actually benefit you, right? I mean, I mean, there's a lot about the world that I live in that I don't like, right? I mean, there's tons of it, right? And rather than just stand around and fucking whine about it, I'm just gonna operate within it because I mean, sure, there are injustices and they need to change, and we can work on that. But as an individual, don't you want to like get to fucking work and like do something like with your life?
Yeah.
Don't you want to like beat those shitty odds, right? Isn't that what you want to do? I mean, you're gonna fucking look up one day and you're gonna be 45 years old and you're not gonna have shit because you fucking spent every goddamn day of your life bitching about the way things you think they should be, the way the world should see and treat you, and what everyone should give and do for you. Well, you're not gonna fucking have anything
Yeah.
if that's the way you spend your fucking days. And there's a goddamn lot of that going on. And just being right isn't enough. Like you got to do some shit too in the meantime,
Yeah.
right? I mean, yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, I mean, but like I said, with the siege metaphor, it's like if you, I think the feminist movement, they got their ram, and they said, look, we want in the city, we want in the fucking city, and so they got their ram, and they started ramming the gate, and they finally knocked the gate open or down, and then they said, you know what? And they said, okay, so the people in the city are like, okay, well here come the besiegers, they're gonna storm the city, right? But instead they're like, okay, you know what? Hitting the gate with the ram was a lot of fun. Could you close and repair the gate so we can hit it with the ram some more? That's basically where they are. They're just stalling, right?
Sure.
And it's like they're still using all the same rhetoric that they were using when they were completely disallowed. right? Which doesn't make any fucking sense. No matter how, but it's therapeutic for them, and that's the rationale. That's the explanation, right? It's therapeutic for them to say, "Oh man, bleh, they're so unfair. They won't let us." But now that everything except frontline combat infantry is technically available to them, right? You can't be frontline combat infantry if you're a woman, and you also can't be a Chippendales dancer, right? You have your own strip clubs, right? That's a gender. Nobody complains about that being a gender segregated occupation.
What do they suppose the motive is for men to not want them to succeed?
They watch too much Lifetime television, where men are just horrible and evil. But yeah,
yeah, I mean, so they just think it's just a general evil thing.
I mean, it's crazy how evil they think we are.
Because, I mean, I always go and everything I hear, like when somebody tells me, somebody tells me a story, the first fucking thing I ask, it's just where I go automatically, why would that have happened?
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I do. So when somebody comes to me and goes, just as an example, my boss fucking fired me for no reason. Right? Which I've heard that said a million fucking times.
For no reason at all, I'm sure.
Which, by the way, never happened, not fucking once. I swear it did not.
Yeah, I've been fired from jobs, and I always really knew what it was about.
There's a fucking reason in there, and if I asked him, what would he say? Like, what would he tell me? Right? And it's that sort of thing, like, why would the person do that? So if I'm going to say, men just don't want us to blankety blank, the next place my brain goes is, why don't men want us to blankety blankety blank? Well, that doesn't make any fucking sense, right? And if you really think about, like, there's the like the whole thing with the racial issue too. Like, this race doesn't want that race to succeed. There's that. Yeah. Well, okay, why not?
Yeah.
Why in the fuck would the man not want your fucking race to succeed? Because it's better if you do for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is this thing where you think that we just, like, people are getting their rocks off because your life sucks? It's a weird thing, and it doesn't, like, if you examine it, like, it doesn't make any fucking sense for people to want your life to be worse than it is.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
like a lot of feminist rhetoric reminds me of Lou Dobbs and his rants against immigrants. It's just that you replace immigrants with men. You know what I mean? It's like Lou Dobbs never suggested we go out and just string up a bunch of Mexicans. But it's like, I don't know if you've ever actually watched the show, but it's like, hey there, lazy, idiotic, white Americans. All of your problems are really the fault of a bunch of goddamn foreigners coming over here somehow. Don't ask me to draw a diagram, And it's such a popular narrative, right? Because it's like, wait, you mean none of it's our fault? We can blame everything on another group and because it's strictly speaking, it's immigrants, not necessarily another race. We can just get away with it even in this politically correct society. Holy shit, this is amazing. Right, You're a genius, fucking Lou Dobbs. And that's what a lot of feminist rhetoric reminds me of. It's just therapeutic beating on, men are horrible and evil and this and that, and they're excluding us and all of our disadvantages. It's because all of their horrible decisions affect us. All of the decisions we make that are horrible, it's because they're influenced by a male-dominated society. And it's Lou fucking Dobbs. if Lou Dobbs was fucking woman.
It's Eric Cartman calling the crack babies student athletes. Shit.
This is the phase, like with the college shit, where if you want more women fucking engineers, you need to get more women to study fucking engineering, right? Mm-hmm. Complaining that men are being unfair is a waste of time. It might make you feel better.
Right. And I think that's probably the extent of it. It's just like, it's, you don't have to take any responsibility for, and, I wonder, it also makes me wonder if the kind of people that talk this way failed somewhere along the line at something, and they just kind of go, well, it's like you said, well, I don't have to blame myself for this, right? Or we can just kind of scapegoat somebody else, back to the teacher didn't like me, the professor just didn't like me, that's why I failed the class. It wasn't that I didn't do the fucking shit properly, it's that, it's some kind of bias. And I don't know, there's something in there, like something tells me that the people that are quick to that conclusion probably fucked up somewhere along the line and didn't pull their weight somewhere.
Yeah.
And they got the shaft, and they kind of don't want to acknowledge that they didn't pull their weight. It's, somebody fucked me.
Yeah.
And there's just so much of that goddamn shit. And it's a weird thing to me. Like, I don't know why you would go that route. I mean, if it making you feel better, at some point, aren't you just hungry? Right? Like, you're running out of shit here, and you feel pretty satisfied with your conclusion, but you've got nothing to show for it. Right? At some point, you failed out of college, or you fucking lost your job because you were fucking talking about how your boss hated you instead of doing your job. So at the end of the day, you've got nothing tangible to fucking show for it. With all your feeling good and self-congratulatory bullshit, you got nothing that you can fucking hold and look at. So enjoy, I guess, because I mean that's where you're headed. And I guess at the end of the day, you can just blame. At the end of your life, you can say, well, at least none of this horrible shit was my fault.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what you're looking for, fucking enjoy. But like, do me a favor, keep me fucking out of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is,
if people knew like how little I thought about them and their success and how and their progress in life, that a lot of these fucking arguments would dissolve. Because if you'd be amazed at how little people give a fuck about what you're doing, no matter who you are, no matter what gender you are, no matter what race you are. Very few people are thinking about you in any capacity. How equally you're treated, or how lousy you're treated. Whatever. Nobody's even considering it, and they damn sure aren't going to burn any calories on getting in your way. Like, I'm not going to follow you around campus knocking fucking textbooks out of your hand. Nobody's fucking doing that shit because we've got our own shit going on.
Yeah.
So cut it the fuck out. Just cut it the fuck out and get to work. Just get to fucking work.
Yeah.
There you go. That's the message of the day.
Yeah, but that's exactly. It's one of the most tired things that you hear from feminist sites and blogs and people and just public speakers, talking heads on the news and shit. Any source, it's they'll trot out statistics like, okay, well, there aren't enough women engineers, there aren't enough women biologists, there's more, there's not enough women these, and it's all evidence of some fucking conspiracy. And some of them come right out and say, it's all the patriarchy. It's just the patriarchy doesn't want women to be archaeologists.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That fucking makes sense.
Yeah. It's just like, what the fuck?
Archaeologists
draw
can't
me a
have
fucking
vaginas.
diagram of that shit.
Yeah, archaeologists can't have vaginas. They won't find anything.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what is the what is the motive?
Yeah, it's like this guy. Now, as you can see, female archaeologists have to dig like male archaeologists down and for the dinosaur bones and shit and the clay pots from the Ming Dynasty, and they have a real problem getting sand in their vaginas. Stay with me. So it's really just not cost effective. I mean, there is like a solution where they can rinse the sand away, but that's time lost, it's productivity lost. They're constantly distracted. They can't focus on their work. You just can't have women archaeologists. So I recommend that we just defund all women's archaeology. It's just, I don't know what the I don't know how the fuck these crazy ass people rationalize this conspiracy bullshit themselves. But to them, it makes perfect fucking sense.
Yeah. I think it goes back to just the whole I don't have to blame myself.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, if people are thinking I'm being too hard on women, I don't. This is not a female phenomenon.
Not even close. No.
If you took like the most hardline MRA guy and waved a magic wand and turned him into a woman, he would immediately become a radical feminist, right? Because now it's in his interest.
Sure, yeah. And
that's all it is. It's like it's not. I'm not suggesting that women are less ethical. I'm saying that if we had 5 different genders, and they would all argue their self-interest under the guise of social justice.
And if your psychology is in pass the buck mode, like if that's where you're at as a person, no matter what circumstances I throw you into, that's where you'll be. You'll be passing the buck. To someone, somewhere, for whatever fucking shit you bring on yourself. Probably, right?
By the looks of you, I should think not.